it's Mimmi from C-Mimmi-O and welcome back to the channel. And today's topic is about building an effective communications strategy. To many people, communications is all about sending emails, posting something on LinkedIn, publishing announcements, pushing out messages. But a real communication strategy is about creating clarity, consistency and alignment and trust across everything your organization says and does. To me, most communications problems aren't really actually communication problems. To me, they seem more like strategy problems. It's about teams jumping straight into tactics. It's about choosing tools before defining your goals. And then you're just wondering why engagement is low or messaging feels inconsistent. So that's why in this video I wanted to talk about the following topics. What a good communication strategy actually includes. How to turn strategy into action. How to choose the right channels. How to measure success, and the biggest mistakes organizations make. So a communication strategy should be a framework that's behind all organizational messaging. It should create alignment between business goals, audience needs, messaging, channels, and execution. It's like a foundation that's underneath all the communication activities. If you don't have a strategy for communication, it really easily and fast becomes reactive, random, disconnected, and inconsistent. And with strategy, communication becomes intentional, it's coordinated, measurable, and it's much more impactful. There's an important distinction. A communication strategy is not the same as a communications plan. The strategy defines the why, what, and who, and the plan then defines the how, when, and where. Both matter, but they are different. Every communication strategy starts with a strategic foundation, and it has to be based on the company strategy. It means that you have to understand your organization first before you start thinking about channels or campaigns. You need to know your mission, your vision, your goals, your positioning, your competitors, your strengths and weaknesses. And most of all, you need to know your audience. All communications flows from those elements. Your tone of voice, key messages, and channel choices should reflect your overall organization strategy. This is where stakeholder analysis becomes critical. Who are you communicating with? Internal employees, customers, partners, investors, media, prospects, communities. Each audience have different needs, expectations, and communication preferences. And if you try to communicate the same way to everyone, you usually end up resonating with no one. So you need to define your primary audiences, secondary audiences, and tertiary audiences. And then you need to build personas around them. What motivates them? What challenges do they face? How do they consume information? What channels do they trust? Once you have this foundation cleared, the next step is starting to build your messaging framework. And this is something where organizations often struggle. because many companies have too many messages competing with each other, and different departments communicate differently. Different leaders use different language. Campaigns feel then disconnected. And over time, the brand becomes more and more fragmented. This is where you use messaging framework, because that creates consistency. At the core, you will need the key messages, a message hierarchy, brand voice guidelines, and a narrative architecture. Your key messages are the main ideas that you want audiences to remember. Your message hierarchy defines which messages matter most for which audiences, and your brand voice defines how you communicate. Is it professional, friendly, technical, bold, visionary, or just plain practical? And your narrative architecture connects everything together into a bigger story. This matters because people do not remember isolated messages. They remember stories and patterns. That's why if you, for example, have a PR that just spiked and then the rest is like very low noise, it means that even if you got a very high number of views for your one PR, no one still knows who you are. A strong communication strategy creates narrative consistency over time. You will also need objectives. Communication without measurement becomes a bit of a guesswork. So your communication goals should connect directly to business outcomes, not just vanity metrics. And this is something where smart goals become useful. S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R is for relevant, and T is for time bound. Here's an example. Instead of you saying we want better employee communication, you want to say we want to increase employee understanding of strategic priorities from 55% to 80% within the next 6 months. That is measurable. Then define the KPIs around it. The KPIs could include, for example, reach metrics, engagement metrics, comprehension metrics, behavioral outcomes, or business impact metrics. And here's an important tip. Start simple. Do not build a massive analytics dashboard immediately. Start by identifying trends. Then gradually move toward more advanced KPIs as your communication maturity improves. Once you have your strategy in place, you need to move to implementation. So you need to turn your strategy into a communication plan. And this is something that many companies overcomplicate or completely skip. I think there should be this 80-20 approach. Plan roughly 80% of the work and leave flexibility for unexpected events for 20%. Implementation then usually happens in phases. First, you have strategic translation. This means turning high-level goals into tactical campaigns. Then it's about breaking communications into streams, assigning ownership, creating content calendars, defining governance and approval workflows. And it's important to define them in the beginning, otherwise you will have these vast committees and you never get an answer, and no one is ever then happy because someone in the committee didn't get their way. You also need to define who creates the content. The approval workflow was discussed. Publishing it, who monitors results. Without clear ownership, communication just becomes too chaotic. A big mistake is to choose channels based on some trends instead of audience behavior. The rule is really simple. Go where your audience already is, not where you wish they were. This is where audience channel mapping is important, because different audiences prefer different communication formats. Some prefer email, some prefer video, some respond better to in-person discussions, some engage most through LinkedIn or messaging platforms. The channel choice should also depend on urgency, complexity, and integration needs. As an example, if you have urgent communication, that requires fast delivery channels. Complex communication may need meetings or video. Relationship building often works best through direct interaction. Scalable updates then work well through email automation or intranet systems. The key is to create the communication channel matrix. That helps define which channels serve which audiences, what content belongs where, how frequently communication happens, and what level of engagement each channel supports. This creates structure and reduces communication overload. Every message should not be communicated or even approached the same way. Some messages are really high impact but still low frequency. For example, some major strategic announcements, organizational changes, leadership updates, crisis communication. These deserve really premium channels like video, town halls, executive communication, multiple touch points, feedback loops. On the other hand, some regular updates should be more scalable and predictable in consistent newsletter formats, weekly updates, templates, automated workflows, clear timing patterns. And then there's urgent communication. This requires immediate channels and backup systems, especially in crisis situations, to which, by the way, I will have a separate blog and content, so wait for that. But continuing, during high pressure moments, communication clarity becomes even more important, and here preparation matters, because you don't want to be caught your pants down and starting to create crisis communication processes during the crisis itself. And don't forget measurement and continuous improvement. Once your communication is running, you need to keep optimizing it. You can't just stop too early with just sending messages without evaluating effectiveness deeply enough. The measurement should also happen continuously. What you want to track is reach, engagement, comprehension, behavioral change, business impact. For example, did employees actually understand the message? Did customers change behavior? Did awareness improve? Did engagement increase? Did this communication support broader organizational goals? And feedback really matters here. You need to have surveys, interviews, direct feedback, community input, internal discussions. The best communication systems cannot be static, but they evolve. The channels change, audience expectations shift, new tools emerge. And business priorities, they also evolve. So a strong communication strategy also adapts without losing this consistency. There are some principles that matter across organizations consistently. Let's start with the first one. Begin with strategy, not with the tools. A new platform will not fix unclear messaging. Technology can amplify strategy, but it will not fix it. But it will not replace it. Second, prioritize consistency, because it builds trust. And not only visually, but in tone, timing, and messaging. Thirdly, stay flexible. You can't plan for everything. Market conditions can change, crises emerge, audience behavior shifts. So your communication system should be structured but still adaptable. Last but not least, focus on value creation. Too much communication today is just noise, because we all get it from everywhere. What your audience needs is not more content, but the relevant, useful, timely communication that helps them make decisions, solve problems, or feel informed. Building an effective communication strategy is about creating alignment between organizational goals, audience needs, and communication execution. What it requires is strategic thinking, clear messaging, audience understanding, and thoughtful channel selection. Then you top it off with measurement and continuous refinement. The best communicating organizations are the clearest and most consistent. They are the most audience focused. Because communication isn't about just information transfer, it's trust building, relationship building. I wrote a blog post about it. There's also a framework in the end of the blog. The link to the blog is in the description. That's all for me now. Bye!